Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video. The new patch has just been released. It's been like a couple of days, to this day. There's a lot of balance changes, a lot of pathing changes, and stuff for campaign and whatnot. I'm gonna leave a link down below for the patch if you guys want to go read about it. Feel free to do so. And I went over the patch quickly on stream myself, and I wanted to make a video talking about what my thoughts on the patch are, and what the patch contains in general. But I think more important than talking about the patch, we got to talk about this new map pool, and we got to figure out how to play the map pool and what the best civs on each of these maps are, because obviously brand new maps, you guys might not be familiar with a lot of them. For example, Steppe might be a little bit weird. Mega Random can also be a little bit weird at times. And so I'm just gonna give you guys my top 3 civs for each of the maps, and I'm also gonna answer some of the questions I got asked quite frequently on my stream. For example, on Steppe, when to build your TC and how and where. So I'll answer some questions like that, and I'll explain to you guys how to play the matchups briefly. I don't have a notepad prepared for this one, so it's just my video. So you guys just have to listen to me talk and see what I have to say about these maps, and hopefully try to implement what I'm saying to your games and get that good elo. But yeah, let's just hop right into it. So Arabia, I'm not gonna go over this map too much. Well, I'll give you my top 3 civs on it at the moment. I think actually Chinese are probably one of the best Arabia civs these days. Really solid overall. Their start can be difficult for newer players, so make sure you're at least practicing it. Or if you're too new a player or too beginner of a player, you don't feel comfortable with Chinese, then just don't pick them. Other options can be Aztecs. Aztecs are very strong. So I'm going to put Aztec and Mayans in there as well. Very strong still in Arabia. Good economy, good options. Fast civ. And then for my third option, I'm going to go ahead and say Huns. I actually don't think Cumans are top 3 in Arabia anymore. And my reasoning is they lost their power unit, which is the Step Lancer, in so many ways. And also their second TC just I think takes a little bit too long now, and it's quite easy to punish, at least at high level. So in my opinion, I think I'm going to put Chinese at number 1, Aztec or Mayans at number 2, and then for my number 3, I think I'm going to go with Huns. Huns are just super flexible. The Arabian maps tend to be very open, so Huns can very easily abuse their high mobility units. And they're quite easy to play as well. They're very noob friendly because you don't need the houses. And they have easy options to get to that are very powerful throughout the game, so you don't have to transition nearly as much. So yeah, those are definitely my top 3 picks on Arabia. There are also plenty of other good civs. There's Franks, Bulgarians are decent now, Ethiopians, sorry, not Ethiopians, Lithuanians have always been good. Vikings are always an option. But as far as top 3 goes, I think those are my picks. For Black Forest, moving on. For Gold Rush, no, but seriously, I think Black Forest, honestly, if you really want to get better at the game, just put an X on it. It's not a good map for competitive play. If you really want to play it, Aztecs is my number 1 civ. Maybe for number 2, we've got like late game powerhouses, maybe Mongols, maybe Cumans, Teuton Slavs if you want like Halb SO, maybe Celts, stuff like that. And then maybe like the weird pick can be Britons with their werewolf traps and their longbows and their long range archers in general. But honestly, in my opinion, if you want to get better, just drop an X on it. It's not a healthy map for 1v1s. Again, that's just my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree. In fact, if you disagree, let me know in the comments why you disagree. But again, I won't dive too much into the details of how to play this one, because I don't think it's that good for 1v1s. Alright, for Gold Rush here, this is an interesting map because it's not like just having that gold in the center can kind of mess you up in how you approach the game. And I've actually made a couple mistakes myself while playing this. I went to the center too early, and then I got out resourced, or my opponent's economy was just way further ahead than me because I invested too much into the middle in the early game and ended up losing games that way. Basically, my recommendation is just to open the game normally, as you normally would in Arabia. Keep in mind though that it could be easy to wall, so don't be afraid to try a fast castle if you have a nice map. But play it normally at first. Don't try to go for the middle too soon. However, I will say don't try to boom too freely in cast stage as well. When it gets to cast stage, really try to play the map control. Put forward buildings, get town watch, get a lot of vision on the map. You want to be able to track your opponent's movements, cut him off from the center, and then take the center in cast stage yourself. But don't, again, rush for the center. Really play the game normally at first, and then look to get to the center in the mid to late game. So like mid to late cast stage, and then early imp is really when you want to get that center. And then as far as civs go, Oh, actually, one last thing. There are a lot of lions in Gold Rush, so sending one spear or one militia in Dark Age to take a train of lions or wolves and send them to your opponent is a nice kind of like cheesy strategy you can try. It's not very effective if your opponent reacts properly. However, it's a small investment and it could pay off. So definitely keep an eye out for that, both to do it yourself and also to defend from it if if your opponent does it to you. All right, as far as civs go, I'm gonna have to put Aztec as my #1 civ here. Honestly, Aztecs are just so smooth on this map. The reason why they're so good is because Aztecs are just good in general on open maps. However, when it comes to Gold Rush, just having a lot of gold in the center lets you go for Aztec monks without feeling guilty like you're spending too much gold on them. And Aztecs have the best monks in the game. You go Aztec monks, you can go pikes, you can go eagles. You have access to a lot of these very cheap units, very gold heavy units. But again, if you have access to the middle, it's easy to spend all your gold on these kind of powerful but expensive units. So eagles, monks definitely comes to mind. And overall, Aztecs are just good on open maps. So they're pretty much my favorite pick on Gold Rush. Kind of dropping down to like tier 2, so like my second place civs. I'm gonna put Mains and Britons here. Both are kind of like archer civs. You open with usually Drush FC. Try to get to that castle age and go for crossbows. And mains are especially good because if you can get like a castle in the center and then start making plumes, for example, in the mid to late game, it can be a very good way to secure yourself the win. You also have access to eagles, not the best monks, but still some good options there that cost a lot of gold. So if you do get access to the center, you do have a lot of ways to end the game through that. So I think that's going to be my second place civs. And then for third place, I think I'm going to go ahead and put like this might be a weird one, but I'm going to go ahead and say Persians. And the reason I'm going to say Persians is because Gold Rush can turn into a very hectic castle age, and Persians just have one of the best economies in the game right now. They are like the old Slavs in a sense, where once you get to like the mid game, your economy is just far better than your opponents by default. The only difference between Persians and say Aztecs and why Persians just aren't as good is that first of all, Aztecs also has a good economy, and second of all, Aztecs just has cheaper options. So again, going for like the really strong monks plus pikes, going for eagles. Usually those options will beat out a Persian player. However, Persians do get access to scouts. They can go for pike siege themselves. They can go for scouts to take control, maybe like Cav, and then go for a castle in the center with a strong economy. They have a lot of options. So I think Persians is my third place. Britons and Mains, second place if you want an archer civ. And then Aztecs is just the all-around best civ on Gold Rush. Also, this is not to say you can't play other civs. This is, again, just my favorite civs, and I think what performs the best if you want to get that ELO. Alright, for Team Islands, this is a map that personally I love. I think as far as water maps go, this is probably like one of the best. The reason I like this one so much is that it punishes you so hard for losing water. You can't really afford to lose water because there's so much fish available on this map. It's not a map like, let me give you an example, say Highland or say Rivers from the past map pool, where if you lose water, sure, you're not going to be able to access your opponent's land because you have to like cross through. But there's not that much fish to make use of, so the economy bonus that your opponent gets is not that huge. However, on Team Islands, they get a massive economy boost. So again, a lot of emphasis on water, and also the distance between your opponent here from Team Islands can be very far, and I'll explain why. So on Team Islands, let's take a look at the map here, how it looks like. You got two options basically. Either you dock the front over here, or you dock the back, and by the back I mean the corners, because the corners usually have bigger waters. Alright, so what's the difference? So if you dock the back, that means you have a little bit more time before your opponent gets to you. We're going to assume our opponent goes for the front dock. And so that way you can get more fishing ships out. You can maybe sneak a fast castle, although I advise against it, and I'll tell you why later. And then you could, just play a defensive with more economy because you added those extra fishing ships. The other option is just to play front dock and then be aggressive. If he goes back dock, you go front dock, you can, push him, try to pressure him. If you both go front dock, then it's just a straight up, galley war or water war, and whoever wins takes control of the water and usually ends the game because, again, there's a lot of fish to make use of. Alright, so what's the best civ on this map? Personally, I think the best civ, and by far, is Vikings. Vikings on maps that, water maps that are quite far from each other, like the distance is far, galleys just tend to perform the best more than fire galleys, and that's why Vikings are, in my opinion, the best civ, because they get cheaper galleys, they also get cheaper docks as their team bonus, and then they also get free wheelbarrow. That's 3 strong bonuses. And then not to mention they have longboats and castle age, which shred fire galleys and fire ships. So I don't know. I think Vikings is nuts on this map. Definitely like S tier and I think the best civ by far. And the way you want to play Vikings though is this. So let's assume it's a Viking mirror match. Viking mirror match, you can play either front dock or back dock. It doesn't matter. Personally, I'd recommend going front dock because then you get to punish your opponent if he goes for back dock FC. If you play back dock, I recommend going for back dock, but don't go FC. Go galleys. The reason you don't want to go FC is because if you do that, your opponent, as the Viking player, if he goes front dock, he can get to your docks before your castle is off, and he can kill all your fish. So you might end up in castle age, but he'll have a very significant fish advantage. And I think with your castle age, you just won't be able to get enough damage done to make it worth it. So go back dock galleys or go front dock pressure in Viking War. If it's Vikings versus any other civ that has fire galley access, don't go front dock. Go back dock. Why? Because you don't have fire galley, and fire galley will beat galleys in the early game. So by going back dock, you buy yourself a little bit more time. Again, don't go fast castle. Go for galleys, but from the back. What this does, take a look at the map. If your opponent is playing perfectly, he's going to go over the front dock. Let's say he's playing against Japanese, just a strong water civ. He'll take the galleys and he'll go all the way here and to the back of your map. This takes a lot longer than to just go from here to here, where your dock would be if you docked the front. So again, buy yourself the time. By the time he gets from there all the way here, you'll have like 3 or 4 galleys to defend yourself, and that should be enough to defend against the 2 or 3, fire galleys that start to attack you. So back dock if you're Vikings against anyone else, and then if you're Viking mirror match, I recommend front dock. Play aggressive. All right, so Vikings, my first, my best civ by far. My second best civ is going to be, I'm gonna say Japanese. I just think Japanese fishing ships are really strong. Because like I said, if you win the water, you want to be able to use the fishing ships to your advantage, and Japanese do that the best. So I'm gonna say Japanese for my second place, and I'm gonna go ahead and give third place to Koreans, Persians, or Italians for 3 reasons. You can play them all differently. But I think Persians are really good for playing the early game, and you mix in a landing later on as well. So you go water early because you get the faster docks, and then you go landing to make use of that monster economy that you get off to. The downside of Persians is that you don't get bracer, and missing bracer in Galleon War is a disaster. So with Persians, you have options to play fast fire ships, but missing bracer can be a problem in late game. So keep that in mind if you are going to go for Persians. Koreans are really good because they get access to cheaper ships and also turtle ships that could come in handy in niche situations. But mostly just the cheaper ships plus an overall solid late game will be really good. And then finally with Italians, you get cheaper fishing ships, you get cheaper dock techs. So overall, you'll just have really good options with those kind of civs. So Italians, Koreans, and Persians for my number 3, Japanese for my number 2, and Vikings on my number 1 by far. All right, moving swiftly along here, we got Arena for this next one. Oh, Arena, everyone's favorite map here. Honestly, this map, I'm not going to dive too deep into the strategy. One thing I will tell you, though, is make sure you're contesting the relics, especially in mirror matches where you're playing the same civ, because relics can make or break the late game. So keep an eye on the relics. Don't give them up too easily. Aside from that, I think the best civs are as follows. I think Aztecs is probably number 1. Again, Aztecs is a recurring theme here. Aztecs might be number 1, although actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think Malay. Malay is probably my number 1 pick. Aztecs for number 2. And then for my number 3, I'm going to go ahead and put a few. I'm going to put Cumans. I'm going to put Mayans, so that's 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw Mayans. And then I'm going to throw like Britons and Spanish. And I know that's a lot of civs there. So we got Britons, Spanish, Mayans, and Cumans. Those civs are all really good because they have strong unique units. And they have really solid economies or options throughout the game. However, I think they just get kind of like out pressured by the first 2 civs, which is Malay and Aztecs. Usually those 2 civs are just too fast. And again, I'm talking more top level with these kind of civ picks. But however, like at all levels, you can find in those 6 civs, one civ that suits your style and one that you'll excel with in Arena. So definitely make sure to check that out. And yeah, I won't dive too deep into strategy because I'm not too knowledgeable on this map. But if you pick in one of those civs, you'll have a good time. All right, moving on for Nomad. This is a very simple, civ list for me. So number 1, actually no, it's a bit more complicated because I think in AOC, like in the old version, Chinese is number 1 by far. However, I think Persians might be the best nomad civ nowadays because of the buff they got. So I'm gonna say for number 1, I'm gonna put Persians and Chinese. It's a tie. All right, I think those two, because they start with extra villagers. Chinese extra villagers, Persians extra resources. They're able to get out a population lead much faster than other civs. All right, so Persians and Chinese for number 1. For number 2, I'm gonna go ahead and put Malians. Malians are really strong because they save wood on their TC, so they can make a fishing ship, and again, that's a population lead faster than other civs. So Malians for number 2. They also have really good options throughout the game, so definitely a solid option. And then for number 3, I'm gonna go ahead and throw down Mayans. Mayans also start with an extra villager, so extra population lead, and then being able to just control the game with plumed archers or just cheaper crossbows in general really comes in handy. And I think Mayans as number 3. Malians for number 2, and then Persians and Chinese for number 1. You can't go wrong with this. One recommendation I will give you guys for Nomad though. Make sure you're trying to do your TC as fast as possible. I see a lot of lower level players walk around for too long before dropping your TC. The way to do it is start the game and walk your villas towards the center of your villas. So if you have one vill here on edges of the map, and I've got one vill kind of in the middle, I'm gonna send my 2 edge villas towards my middle villager. All right, and that's where I'm gonna look to make my TC. So I'm gonna, as the vills are walking back, you're obviously scouting the map with some of them, and so try to find your TC location on a wood line. Make it on a wood line, and because you need the wood income to be able to afford fishing ships from your dock. So a standard nomad start, assuming you have, let's say, Persians with 3 villagers, 2 vills will walk together to towards each other and make a TC in the middle, and then the 3rd vill will go ahead and make a dock on the outsides of the map. Look how the map looks like here. You want to make a dock kind of like on the edges of the map. So here. It's just the best place to get fish. Don't make them in the center because look, there's some ponds in the center. They will not have big fish, all right? So make them on the edges of the map and then make your TC as fast as possible. And that's the best way to get a good nomad start. All right, moving on to Steppe here. Another no TC start map. So actually the kind of the tier list will be similar from Steppe to Nomad. I think I'm going to still put Persians and Chinese on top. However, for number 2, actually, no, hold on. Persians might not be on top. Never mind. I think Chinese is the best civ on Steppe by far. Second place, I'm probably going to put Mongols because there's a lot of hunt in the center and Mongols can get off to a really strong start. And then for 3rd place, I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go with Persians. Again, really strong options throughout the game, and they're one of the best economy civs in the game right now. So Persians for number 3. Mongols for number 2, and Chinese for number 3. And the reason Mongols are so good is because there's so many deer in the center. So if you get map control, you get off to a really good economic start. As far as how to play Steppe, basically you want to start your match, and if you see your berries, you want to make your TC on the berries. If you don't see your berries, make your TC right away. So like literally start the game and drop it. The reason being, if you don't drop your TC, if you wait, that's idle time. It's like you're not producing any villagers. However, if you get TC down right away, you have no idle time, and as soon as it's up, you get to produce villagers. So you want to make sure it's dropped as fast as possible. Also, it doesn't really matter where you drop it because you're always going to have standard resources around you. It's not like Nomad where you have to look for a spot. So definitely on Steppe, drop it right away. Or if you find your berries, drop it on your berries. That's the best advice I can give you. The rest is just practice and try to get a good feel for the map with those civs. All right, next map, and the hardest map for me to analyze is going to be Mega Random. Okay, so Mega Random can have so many different spawns. It's literally impossible for me to give you good civs for it. Basically, my best tip for Mega Random is Scout. Scout the map because you never know what you're going to find on the map. You never know how the map's going to look like. And like the easiest way to uncover the map and to think of a strategy is to scout the map, see what's happening, and then make decisions based on what you see. It's the map that rewards smart players the best because you're always forced to make decisions on the fly. There's no prepared strategies, and there's no like really dominant civ picks. However, I will give you some civ picks that I think are the best generic civs in the game that are best suited for the most circumstances. My number 1 civ is going to be Vikings. Vikings with free wheelbarrow, free handcart, and solid water play makes them overall the best civ on most of these maps. Vikings do have Maybe not the best late game, especially in closed scenarios. So definitely be sure, to note your weaknesses and play accordingly. But other than that, I think Vikings are just the most solid overall. I'm gonna go ahead and say Huns and Persians tied for second place, and I know Persians have come up so much. They're just really flexible now. They're really good in a lot of situations, and so is Huns. They're very versatile, good economy bonus, and are pretty much useful in a lot of situations and a lot of maps. So regardless of what comes up, those civs will be really good. And for my third place, I know there are some castle starts in Mega Random, so I'm gonna have to drop down Mayans. A civ that's all around solid and also has a good unique unit. So if you get those castle maps, you can abuse the plumed archer from the get-go, and you don't actually have to mine stone to make that castle. So Mayans for my third place, Persians and Huns for second place because of how strong and versatile they are. And then finally for my first place, it's gonna have to be Vikings. Way too strong overall. But again, scout the map. That is going to be your best friend on Mega Random. Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed this kind of ramble from me. I hope some of the stuff I said was useful. I probably should have showed you guys the civs here so you can see, what I'm thinking of as I'm talking about the map. However, I hope it was easy to follow, and I hope you guys maybe learned something from what I had to say. But again, the important thing is not to know the map, know the maps and know the civs. The important thing is to practice them and see for yourself what works for you. Again, there's players of all levels, so don't listen to what I'm saying as fact. It's just my opinion. It's just what's worked for me. Maybe different things work for you at a different level, at a different style. Make sure to check them out yourself and give each of my civs a try, and then see which one you like best. Alright, that's going to be it for me. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video, which will probably be a beginner to 2K guide or just a random gameplay video. Take care, and bye for now.